Selecting nursery soil is very, very important when it comes to the nursery. The soils that will be selected must be from a virgin area, meaning that it must not be taken from a place or a source that is already cultivated. It must be from a source where the soil has not been disturbed. And in this area, the soil has all its organic matter still intact. So here we have two sources of topsoil that was brought in from undisturbed area. We have the sawdust. The soil is the heap on the other side. That's the topsoil. The topsoil is brought in. The sawdust was collected from a sawmill in, and when they are brought in, they are poured close to the nursery site. They are left to condition for some time. The reason to condition the soil is that the soil will be receiving sunlight, the soil will be breaking down itself, the particles will be sorting themselves down to smaller particles. And when they are in smaller particles, they are easy to work with when it comes to mixing them for the seed trays. The sawdust is from a sawmill. The timber that the sawdust comes from is still fresh. And so when it is used directly as fresh in a soil mix, it will burn the seedlings and also it will kill off the seeds in the nursery. That is why they are both brought in, left close to the nursery for some time. And whether it weathers away all the acid inside the sawdust, including the other material in the soil. They are kept separate from each other so that they are not contaminated. When the topsoil is ready and when it is brought down by activity of microbes, including the sawdust, it is now time to further process them and mix them up so that they will be placed in the nursery trays. And from the trays, the whole process of seed sowing begins. From the two heaps, the soil and the sawdust is brought into the nursery building. The nursery building has two parts. One is where we lay the seed trays. The other one is the processing area. And processing area is the area where the sawdust and the soil is brought in. At the back of me is the soil. In front of me is the soil and sawdust that has been mixed. The ratio of the soil and the sawdust can be 3 parts of soil to 1 part of sawdust. Sometimes it depends on the kind of seeds or the plants that are going to be planted in the mix. For example, for vines, suckers, other than seeds, the mix can be quite heavy, meaning that we can put in more sawdust and soil. But for vegetables, we make sure that the mix is very fine. Very fine meaning that we put in a little bit of sawdust. After the mixing of the soil and the sawdust is completed, the nurserymen take the mix and place them into the trays. After the mix is completed, they are placed in the trays, and the trays are brought into the seedbed nursery or the greenhouse and watered. When the water enters the trays, the soil becomes moist and oiling is done at the same time. When it dries up, it's difficult to make the oils. Oiling is done together with the water at the same time, as we can see what is happening now. This little instrument for oiling is not sold in the shops, but it's made by our nursery team themselves. When they found out that they could not do oils quickly, they came up with this innovative idea to make this little oiling instrument. So they just make oils using this one. After the oiling is completed, seeds are brought in. 2 seeds are placed in each planting oil. On this tray we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 oils, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. 6 times 5 is 30 oils we have on one tray. Between 3 days to 7 days, seeds that are sown in the seed tray, they begin to germinate. Germination starts on the 3rd day and moves on until 7 days. This row here is now 7 days old. After 7 days or within 6-7 days, they will uproot them and transplant them to another seed tray for them to grow up and mature. Cabbages are very difficult to grow, especially in the lowlands where there is high heat intensity. But in this case, we can see that this nursery has developed the techniques so well. Now they are able to grow English cabbage. These trays have been sown. After 3 days, they have germinated, and now they are growing successfully. They will be looked after, fertilized, watered on a daily basis regularly, and they'll grow up to 10 days, and they will be ready to be moved out for hardening for another 3 days, and they will be field planted. The pak choy here is looking excellent, very healthy, strong, and they are ready to go to the field. They have been hardened for today. Today will be the last day in the nursery, and tomorrow they will be moved to the field for field planting. It is important to make sure that the seedlings mature well and insect and pest is controlled, so that all the seeds sown grow. Otherwise, if we lose seeds, then we will lose a lot of money, because the seeds are very, very expensive to buy. You will notice all the seedlings in this nursery are growing very well and growing very successfully. It is because they are well managed in terms of the soil mix. Secondly, disease and pest is controlled in the nursery. That is why you can see that the seedlings are not affected by insect and pests. One of the chemicals that they use in this nursery is Grow-Areap organic liquid fertilizer. Grow-Areap in itself is a plant food. It contains all the nutrients that are required by a plant to grow successfully. In it also, grow area contains pesticide, insecticide, and this helps the plants to grow successfully. This simply means that in one product, grow area organic liquid fertilizer, you have fertilizer and you have pesticide and you have insecticide. So there are three different chemicals all together in one product. So grow area helps to grow all these seedlings in this nursery very successfully.